Okay, I'm good to go.
Okay, yeah, 6:30, baby.
The agenda meeting of the Monroe Township Council, combined agenda and regular meeting, is hereby called to order. Would we all please rise to honor our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Miriam Cohen,
Yes.
Councilman Charles DePiero,
Here.
Councilwoman Elizabeth Schneider,
Here.
Councilwoman Rupa P. Siegel,
Here.
Councilman Terrence Van Zura.
Here.
Would the Township Clerk please read the Sunshine Law into the record?
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice has been provided by the following. 1, posted on the bulletin boards within the municipal building on December 30th, 2022, and remains posted at that location for public inspection. 2, printed in the Home News Tribune and the Cranberry Press on December 30th, 2022. 3, posted on the Monroe Township website, and 4, sent to those individuals who have requested personal notice. In accordance with Chapter 3, Section 17 of the Monroe Township Code, public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes unless further time is granted by the council president.
Thank you. We have a proclamation for Save the Soil Day, which is March 21st, 2023. Item 6, would the clerk please read the ordinances that are on the agenda for the regular meeting?
Ordinance
Second reading.
Ordinance 02-2022-006, ordinance authorizing the acquisition by negotiated agreement or eminent domain of real property and/or property interests required for a roadway improvement project on Prospect Plains Road from Stonecker Drive to Applegarth Road. 02-2023-007, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Monroe in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, appropriating $7,105,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $6,766,000 bonds or notes of the Monroe Township to finance part of the cost thereof. Ordinance 02-2023-008, bond ordinance providing for various open space recreation improvements in and by the Township of Monroe in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, appropriating $4,650,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $4,428,500 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof. 02-2023-009, ordinance authorizing the acquisition of Block 62, Lot 3.05 on the official tax map of the Township of Monroe, more commonly known as 319 Spotswood Gravel Hill Road. 02-2023-010, ordinance amending Chapter 79 of the Code of the Township of Monroe entitled Police Department Rules and Regulations, specifically Section 79-90.1, entitled Specific Qualifications.
Item 7 is an ordinance that will be introduced at the regular meeting, 03-2023-011. It is an ordinance amending Chapter 122 of the Code of the Township of Monroe entitled Vehicles and Traffic, specifically Section 122-30 entitled No Parking. That encompasses Buckaloo Avenue, Cranberry Half-Acre Road, Cranberry Station Road, Hoffman Station Road, Union Valley Half-Acre Road. Item 8 is our resolutions for consideration under the consent agenda at the March 6 regular meeting, R3 2023-092 through R3 2023-115. Would all members of the council please review these resolutions if you have not done so as yet? If there are any that you wish to be exempted from, please so tell us. Yes, Mr. Shapiro.
I just have one. It's R3-2023-108.
108, thank you.
You're welcome.
We will move to the public comment section of our agenda meeting. Remember, it is limited to agenda items only with 5 minutes per speaker. May I have a motion to open the public comment section?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public comment section is open. Who wish to address the council, please come to the microphone, stating your name and your address, please. Don't like all these people.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lucille Panos. I'm at 1208 C. Lindera Plaza, Monroe. Well, here I go. I guess I'll go with the ordinance 006. How many of the 18 acquisitions were taken by eminent domain? 009. How many senior affordable housing units are expected where it says future senior housing? And where is this town on meeting its Mount Laurel obligations? Then we go to the resolutions. Resolutions 092. Why is it almost 2 months in extension needed for the receipt of revenue figures? Oh, you having a problem collecting the revenue that you proposed in budgets or something? 093. Please give specifics as to which roads are included in this $185,000. And actually, I'd like to hook that up with 103 because there's some more roads improvements. So one is for 185,000 and 103. I think they maybe should have been combined. All right, 009, 099, my apologies. They're purchasing 2 vehicles. Are these green vehicles? Are they hybrid? Are they electric? And if not, why not? 100, 023-100. That should have been incorporated. I wanted to know why it's not incorporated with the 092. No, not with the other road improvements, 093. Then 107, 2023-107, resolution authorizing award of contract to Lake Management for wet basin. How many wet basins are included in this authorization? And the resolution indicates an amount with any additional services as needed. Is there a cap on how much can be spent on additional services before it comes before you or before they actually do the work? Then on 103, there's a release of a performance guarantees upon the posting of a maintenance guarantee. Do you actually have that maintenance guarantee in hand? And that is the same question for 110. Then 112. Or 104. Resolution authorizing award of contract to DLA Piper for environmental legal services in connection with the BFI landfill. What is the status of the BFI landfill? And by the way, does BFI contribute to any of this money that we're spending as taxpayers? And basically, I believe that's it, and I did it within 5 minutes. I'm getting better.
You're getting better, getting better. That was good. Mr. Weinberg?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll try and answer these as best I can, and the township
happy.
attorney and/or township engineer will fill in
Fill
as
in when you
necessary.
need.
So on 006, it's 18 minor acquisitions. It first begins as an arm's length transaction and negotiation, and only after we can't come to that agreement would it go to condemnation. On the previous traffic light that we did over on Mounts Mills and Old Bridge, we didn't need to use condemnation, and hopefully we'll be in the same situation here as well. These are partial easements of properties in and around the traffic light. But as you can imagine, when you're building a road, you sort of have to build it. You can't have other sections that can't be done.
Okay,
So
that
we're not
doesn't-
doing condemnation at this point. We start with an arm's length transaction.
That's the answer, none. There's, out of the 18,
At
there's-
this point, none is.
At this
none
point.
is-
We haven't authorized the
Okay,
acquisition.
and will it come before the council if that is necessary?
No. The ordinance authorizes to acquire it by negotiations or condemnation.
So you're
in
going
our
to authorize
experience-
eminent domain
Correct.
without any idea of whose it is and what it is?
No, we have complete ideas as to what it is. That's how we came up with we have a list of, and we have all the parcel maps. We have a bond ordinance as to what the cost is, so we know all of those things.
And you know which properties are involved?
You're sure they're listed in the ordinance.
Thank you.
Yep, and we design it
I
as.
didn't see,
Yep,
I didn't
as
see them
It says
listed,
18 minor acquisitions for traffic light improvements. That they're in the ordinance.
but as block and lot and street, you know, all that, I didn't see it, but I'll look again, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's great.
Next is number 9. I think there was a question about number 9. As of right now, and we're still in the early stages, it would ultimately be 30 units, approximately 30 units of affordable housing, which would save us approximately, with the 4-to-1 ratio, 120 units of market rate housing. So that's the answer on that one. We are,
And we're in complete compliance with our Mount Laurel obligation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was the other part of the question, thank you.
92 is just the introduction of the budget. Statutorily, I think it's usually in March, but most towns introduce it in April and May, which is the common practice, some certainly later, and that's been our practice here, to introduce it in April and approve it in May. 093 on roads, this is, every year we do a certain amount of roads. This is actually one of our largest years, I think our second biggest amount, about approximately $1.5 million. And we actually are finalizing the list of roads for this. We ultimately do some alternates to make sure we can fit them all in. And these are municipal roads, not state roads or part of any state grant contracts, which I'll get to later. 103 is the other question you had on roads. So we are looking at doing some roads in and around Inwood Estates. We are receiving a grant through the state of approximately $270,000. This would be an additional grant through the county of $166,000 through the Housing and Community Development CDBG grant. And we would use this for ADA intersections and all the walkways in there, and these would tie in as part of that project. 099.
By the way, just to stop, Alan, and the reason why they're separated into two ordinances is you separate out the CDBG ones from the other ones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, on 099, it's just purchasing 2 vehicles. They are not electric vehicles. They're for the construction office to do inspections. So they're regular SUVs. We did previously endorse getting 2 electric vehicles, which we're in the process of purchasing. But these are not those vehicles, and certainly we'll be moving in those direction.
Why not? Why don't you do it now? Why kicking the
Yeah.
electric vehicles down the road?
So of the 2, I'm not going to, just Council President, if I can, through the 2 electric vehicles that we authorized, we can't purchase them because there's none on state contract at this point. So they're waiting for their vehicles, and we haven't been able to find a vendor who can sell us the electric vehicles. The one vehicle that was available was a Ford Mustang, which was a little unnecessary and expensive. It was the only thing we could get on calendar.
It's more to have a Ford Mustang electric, though.
I'm just telling it like it is.
Tell them.
So moving on from 99, so 100 is for planning and zoning. We had to do that separately because we purchased a planning and zoning SUV. A year later, the dealer never got it. So we need to revoke that previous resolution and try and get it through the Cranford Co-op. It's been very difficult to get cars lately. Moving on to 107, wet basin maintenance. Most of this is funded through a trust fund that we have for wet basin maintenance. Mark may know offhand the exact number of basins that are wet. I think it's, maybe a couple dozen.
Council
Mr.
President, it's
Rosales.
30 locations for wet
3
basins.
locations, thank you.
Yep. And then on 103, okay, actually, 103 was brought up again, but I think that's the same one that I answered earlier.
Yes.
110 was as a posting of a maintenance guarantee. I'll let Mark answer that question. We always have the maintenance guarantee, and the clerk's office works on that. Anything you want to add, Mark?
No, again, it's release of a performance bond and posting of the maintenance bond for that was the 21 parking lot and concrete improvements.
So we don't give them back the bond unless we have the maintenance bond.
I just wanted to make sure you had it.
Correct.
Yep. And then on 112, that is the attorney that we were using for that for that litigation switched law firm. So we're just moving the contract to the other law firm, and I'll let Lou answer any other questions about that.
BFI, I mean, it's been in the newspapers. BFI has filed a lawsuit. This is a law firm out of Washington, D.C. that is an expert in CERCLA, which is the federal law that controls the closure of landfills. So they're essentially an expert we're bringing in to work on the case.
Is BFI contributing to any of this?
Right now, they're suing us.
Suing us.
Shoot, we should be suing them.
We are.
Oh.
And then we sued them.
right.
They sued first, but then we sued them.
Well, thank you very much. I'm
You're
quite
welcome.
disappointed in the electric vehicles, rest assured. That is like, I don't think, how bad could the township trucks be that you can't put off 6 months to a year? I'd almost ask you to table that and say, listen, these vehicles are in good shape. Let's see if we could hold off with the electric stuff, or at least hybrid. I wonder how many emissions these Durangos emit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else wishing to address us? I believe Mr. Gunkelman had his hand up and yielded to Lucille, so you will be third. Thank you.
Good evening, George Kunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Monroe. On item 026, under the consent agenda, it's a reduction of performance guarantee for Stonebridge. Have the, it probably should be 97. Have the issues with the AC there been resolved?
Just,
In the
Stonebridge, this is 290.
oh, 97?
Oh,
96 and
097 under
Sorry.
the consent resolution.
Okay.
Have the issues that were outstanding at Stonebridge with in the clubhouse for the air conditioning, are they resolved?
Council President, this is a bond release for the site work.
We
The
don't- we didn't
issues that
bond-
you're
they don't
talking
bond the
about
air
is the building, and that, there's no bond that the township has for that. That's between the HOA and the developer.
So it's unresolved?
No.
I-
so
I
the
don't
answer
know.
is it's
No,
got
it's
nothing to do with this.
unresolved between the other two parties.
Don't know.
We don't know.
No.
It's not our thing. We don't get bonds for.
Well, it's leverage we're giving up.
No, the answer is it's not leverage. We only deal with bondable items, or when they complete the bondable items, we release the bonds.
Well, also,
leverage at all.
this was, there was a lawsuit and,
Correct,
you know, was part of this that we had with the developer.
You had a,
exactly,
And this was the settlement.
yes.
I have competing years, one on my left, one on my right.
Sorry. It's all in front of me. 098, liquid zinc pyrophosphate. What's it used for? I tried to look it up and couldn't find any.
Joe lives for.
Information
Joe
that-
lives for
This
chemistry
is Joe's,
questions.
I live
Joe's thing.
Excellent.
Yeah, and the related question to that is the 71,000, that's per annum or per day?
The zinc orthophosphate is a corrosion inhibitor that we use as part of our overall treatment of water that's getting distributed out of our wells. That's one of the reasons why we have one of the best lead copper performances within the state. In fact, the state NJDEP recently elongated our routine testing from 6 months to a year because we don't have corrosive water, and that's one of the reasons why. And that's an estimate that's used based again on the throughput that we have, but obviously the throughput that we have is dependent on a number of different factors, whether you have a hot, dry summer or a wet summer or those types of things.
So it's a per annum.
Excuse me?
It's a per annum.
Yes, it's a per annum.
Estimate.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Don't give up your mic. 102, hydraulic modeling and, or planning and modeling. What, is that for water, sewer?
That's for water. And in essence, what we do, and this will play a big role, and one of the reasons why the zinc orthophosphate, I neglected to mention, is going up is because we're obviously adding a new well, 25, that's going to be coming on probably within the next month or so, if we get this long lead time item. But the hydraulic modeling is used so that as every new development comes on, we go ahead and make sure that from a system capacity standpoint, we don't have any friction losses that's going to reduce available fire flow and/or pressures throughout the system. And we can also model different scenarios so that if there is a main break that exists we can find out exactly where the pressure loss is going to be, so we can go and shut valves at various points in the system to be able to make sure that we boost the pressure back up while the break is being repaired. Well,
Item 113, $426,000 for paving of DPW construction and softball parking lot. That's, it seems high. And I have a related question is, when are we going to pave the lot around this building? This out here is unimpressive at the moment.
And we
Complete
go,
with potholes and lack of striping.
we noticed them when we parked, yes.
So what, we should have a softball field, or what do we got to do to get this paved?
I should think you should get one of your two questions answered by Mr. Razumowitz about the softball field, or is Mr. Weinberg answering that?
I can do that one. So, and Mark's team did an excellent job on it. We got 13 bids for it, which made it incredibly competitive. It was actually quite under the engineer's estimate, and we are going to be using $100,000 in recycling tonnage grant towards it. It'll cover a very large area, not just of the recycling yard and the construction center, but a much-needed area of the softball field. And it's shocking the number of visitors that we get to the recycling yard each week. It's really thousands of people, and I think this is going to be a supreme improvement, because it's not just the yard that we see where people drive in, but other parts of the DPW area where our trucks will now be over asphalt instead of over dirt. So there's a lot of improvements tied into this, and certainly, as the gentleman mentioned, we are looking at town hall as well, and everything takes a little bit of time, but that is certainly near the top of our agenda as well, and we've certainly heard from folks, and I expect that that's something we'll be doing in the near future as well.
Thank you, Madam
I
Chair.
thank you. Dr. Parab.
Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Good evening, everyone. Just a clarification question. R32023103. This Housing and Community Development Citizens Advisory Committee, it is a township committee?
Mr. Weinberg, please.
That's correct. It's a township committee, and it holds a meeting to spend money from the county that's really passed through from the federal government under the Community Development Block Grant.
So the public can come and request certain things, suppose for their community, if the roads are not good and all, we can come
How
and
does that
present.
committee function?
Yep,
really
it is
what
it is
exactly?
advertised and publicly noticed.
So
Yes.
we can present that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And this is also a good, I like this, 0220230008. We're spending 4.4
Could you
or
repeat
some.
the last three numbers, please?
0220230008 on page 2,
Thank
first
you.
one.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bond
that is a
ordinance.
good ordinance. So the parks throughout can you give an example of the parks we are looking at and what we are going to do?
Mr. Weinberg, it's your turn again.
Sure. And so this was also outlined in the Monroe News that we mailed out in
okay.
person to folks. So it looks at 5 parks in the first phase of the effort. This is all the culmination from the master plan efforts, and there'll be multiple phases as part of it. And we're actually working on a brochure that will go out that will provide even more detail. And this just begins that process on moving forward on it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I read that newsletter,
Thank you.
so thanks for the reference.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come before the council at this time? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to request a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second on that, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? This meeting is adjourned,
6:54.
6:54.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second on the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Yes. Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes. Calling the regular meeting to order, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second on that.
Second.
Thank you. Again, a roll call, please.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
We are open, folks.
Say yes. Aloud.
Hello.
Yes. Okay.
Motion to approve the payment of claims per the run date of March 1st, 2023. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman DePiero?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes of the following meetings is written and presented February 6th, 2023, the agenda and regular combined meeting. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you both. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
Yes. You heard me.
I heard it.
I'm so glad. We will have our ordinance for second reading, which is 02-2023-006. Ordinance authorizing the acquisition by negotiated agreement or eminent domain of real property and/or property interests required for a roadway improvement project on Prospect Plains Road from Stonica Drive to Applegarth Road. Please note parenthetically on the agenda, it says 18 minor acquisitions for traffic light improvements at the intersection of Prospect Plains Road and Applegarth Road. May I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are open. Anyone wishing to address the council on this ordinance, please come forward now. Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt ordinance 02-2023-006, please. Motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
We have adopted.
Yes.
Goody. You want to do the next one, please?
Did you say yes again?
I said yes again.
02-2023-007, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Monroe in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, appropriating $7,105,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $6,766,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Second on that.
Second.
Thanks you again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is open. Anyone wishing to address the council, please come forward. Saw that move. You need your name again, Mr.
George
Gunkelman.
Gunkelman, Monroe. Just like to have some kind of illustrative idea of what we're going to use, what capital improvements are going to be addressed by this
Sure.
$7 million.
So there, just so you know, it's always in section 3 of all of the ordinances. So I don't know, Alan, you want to go through it?
Sure, yep. The first item is connected to Ordinance 9, which is the purchase and acquisition of 319 Spotswood Gravel Hill Road to become the senior affordable housing. So that's approximately $3.1 million. The next one is the $1.7 million, as I mentioned earlier, the largest road paving and improvement project that we do annually each year. The next one is $2.1 million, which is related to police equipment in terms of, and I think we'll be hearing a little bit more about this later, some automatic license plate readers. It includes some body-worn cameras, all kinds of new equipment, tasers for every police officer, and a variety of other equipment. It includes an additional $80,000 for land acquisition, which is tied to the earlier ordinance at Applegarth and Prospect Plains for that traffic light. And then about $105,000 for the roof improvements that we're looking to make on the roof in here. And finally, I think $20,000 for some improvements within the council chambers, including visual improvements like televisions or screens, so people could see things a little more easier when we do presentations during the planning and zoning board meetings and other functions that happen within the building.
The only comment I would have is some of the items that you described as police equipment don't sound like traditional capital improvements. They sound more like consumables.
So it's a 10-year program for the different body cameras, and they get replaced certain periods, and so it follows the bond law to be able to amortize them over 10 years. And it's a multi-purpose bond ordinance, so it gets averaged out through everything within it to come up with the life of the bond ordinance of the different sections together. So it is bondable, yep.
If I was a betting man, I'd bet against 10 years. That's all.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, Dr. Prokop.
Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Just as a taxpayer, I want to understand this. Means it may be a silly question. When we issue a bond, it is like taking a loan from the people, isn't it? It's like you're taking a loan from the bank or loan from we're issuing bond, and we have to pay it. So this is, we are doing it assuming that we taxpayer pay it in future. How we pay it monthly, installments on that, how we pay that. Because
How do we pay it?
pay that, yeah.
I don't know. I think they're probably paid quarterly, but when you adopt, at the beginning of every year, when you adopt your temporary budget,
Okay,
you have in the temporary budget
Okay.
your payment, your debt service
it
payments
is
for the
included
entire
in
year.
the
Is that
budget.
correct, George? Right? Yeah, so every year you'll see it, but we make those payments, and as to when they specific payments are made for specific
Okay.
bonds, George Lang would know better than that, but they're staggered over the course
okay,
of the year.
thank you very much. So it goes out of our budget. Thank you.
Correct.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to address us on this particular issue, please come forward.
By
Again,
the way, can I amend my answer? Except for water bonds, which are paid for out of not paid for out of taxes, but paid for out of the water rates. So water utility bonds would be paid for out of water utility rates, but everything else would be regular capital would be paid out of taxpayers.
Name and address
Hi,
again, please.
Lucio Panos, Monroe. Are these trucks are they being bought with bonds?
I don't think they're trucks.
Oh, cars, Durangos. It's really bothering me, these Durango things.
No,
Oh, she's talking about a resident.
Are they bondable? Are we using bond money?
no,
Alan,
this is the bond. This is not the.
Right, but
Durangos.
are the Durangos included in that?
No,
Well, they're not included in this bond
they
that
are
we're
not.
talking about. right here.
The bond ordinance that is the subject of this public hearing, they are not included in.
Okay, but they're included in future ones, or,
They're in a previous ordinance, but
They're
not
in
the
a
subject of
previous
this
ordinance.
hearing, just to be clear.
okay, so then we hold that conversation off till the end again.
anyone else wishing to address us now, please? No one wishes to address the council now? Going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 02-2023-00?
Motion.
7. Thank you, Charles. May I have a second on that?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
Yes. Would you like to do the next ordinance, please?
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
Ordinance O-2-2023-008, bond ordinance providing for various open space recreation improvements in and by the Township of Monroe in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, appropriating $4,650,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $4,428,500 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof.
I have a motion to open a public hearing, please.
So moved.
Thank you. A second on that. Hi. Second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Anyone wishing to address the council on this ordinance, please come forward now. Seeing and hearing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. I'll take a motion to adopt, please.
Council President, I had a question.
Sure.
On this, it says Phase 1. Did we, I know we came up with an amount in order to get to the numbers for the bond. Do we have a list, and did we make that public on what the improvements are going to be as far as what parks and
Yes.
what locations and what's going to happen in each one of these locations?
We're gonna give this
So,
in-
Councilman, in Section 3 of the ordinance, it lists, and maybe it's good for the public to know, the community gardens, the senior center, Patriots Park, Monroe Township Soccer Complex, and Veterans Park are the locations of the improvements. As to the specific improvements, Mr. Weinberg.
Yeah, and so those were covered in the article that was in the front page. I mean, I could get into some detail on them. I should say that this would allow us to move forward with the design, and the design will be an opportunity also to look at a little more detail and see exactly specifically what we need and work with all the stakeholders on that. So I don't want to get too far down the detail because this begins to move us forward with some ambitious strategies and goals that are outlined in the article, but the real detail and the exact number will come from design and stakeholder meetings.
Right, I just, I know the article's fine, but the article's not in front of us, and nothing's here to show the public, to be transparent, to say, like, you know, example, Turtle Gate property that I call the Turtle Gate. What's getting done on that property on Old Church Road? Is there anything included in this Phase 1 of the parks? And if so, what types of fields or what types of recreation, the senior center? As Lou just read out the names, it's just nice that if we tell the locations, we also tell the public on what we're planning on putting there, or the engineers are trying to design. That's all I'm asking.
Mr.
Right,
Weinberg.
so Old Church is not listed in this, so it's not one of the locations. The article does talk about some longer-term items that could go there as part of a Phase 2. The Phase 1 in the article, and again, I don't know how much time we have, talks about some of the different things that are going to happen in each of the different locations. I could certainly outline them for you, and certainly we've obviously been through them. I could go through each location if that's beneficial.
I think it would just help the public.
Sure. So I know at Avenue K, we're looking at doing some sand volleyball over at up on the southern end of town at Applegarth. Over by the community garden, we're looking at a significant playground, some additional parking that will benefit the garden, a potential expansion of the garden itself, a small potential gazebo, and some small picnic areas. Over at the soccer complex, again, we're still in the early phase here, but we're looking at expanding the over on the eastern side. We're looking at adding permanent lights where the temporary lights are that the club brings in each year, and also expanding parking on that side because, as you know, it gets parked up pretty good there during tournaments and other things. On the left-hand side, closer to the post office, we're looking at some pickleball courts and tennis courts in that small, narrow area over there, but also some expanded parking because that'll benefit not just those folks who may be using it there, but also benefit the soccer complex as well. Over at Patriots Park, we're looking at some sand volleyball, additional sand volleyball courts. And over at the senior center, we're looking at between sort of the firehouse and the senior center, we're looking at some pickleball courts and some sand volleyball over there. And all of this is the direct result of the input that we received from the master plan, but we'll still continue to work with all stakeholders as we move forward and to implement. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I think we would like to have a motion. Do we have a motion to adopt, and we have a second on that yet?
We need a motion to adopt.
We need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Thank you. A second on that motion,
Second.
please. Thank you. A roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Oh, yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Motion passes. Yes. Not my yes. I know you. Sorry, not my yes.
Okay. Ordinance O2-2023-009, ordinance authorizing the acquisition of Block 62, Lot 3.05 on the official tax map of the Township of Monroe, more commonly known as 319 Spotswood Gravel Hill Road.
I'd like a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
May I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, public hearing is open. Anyone wishing to address the council, please come forward, stating your name and address for our record.
Lucio Panos, Lindera Plaza. Who are we getting this property from? We're authorizing the acquisition. Who are we acquiring it from?
Property owner.
Who is the property owner?
How
cute.
Sorry. That wasn't me. Didn't mean to be cute. Hold on a second.
But
I'll
you
see
are.
if
Yes.
I have the appraisal report. I'll
I
just.
think it's Monroe Capital Partners.
Yeah, I
That's the
believe so.
LLC.
Monroe Capital Partners. Yes.
Yes.
And how much is it appraised for?
Appraisal on the website is appraised for $2,530,000.
And how much are we paying for it?
Alan, what was the ultimately negotiated?
$3 million.
$3
It's
million.
appraised for $2 million and we're paying $3 million.
It was appraised for $2.5 million,
$2.5 million and we're paying $3 million. Why are we paying more than?
so that we don't have to condemn it. It's 20% over the purchase price.
So that makes it all right. So, okay. I don't have a pencil. Could you just repeat who we're getting that from again?
Monroe
Monroe Capital Partners,
Capital
LLC.
Partners.
Correct. You're welcome.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Public hearing is closed. I'd like a motion to adopt ordinance 02-2023-008, please.
9.
9. That's why we don't have any.
So moved.
May I have that motion?
Motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second. Second.
Thank you. Before you do the roll call, I'll repeat the number, 02-2023-009. Roll call, please.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes, motion is adopted.
Ordinance O2-2023-010, ordinance amending Chapter 79 of the Code of the Township of Monroe entitled Police Department Rules and Regulations, specifically Section 79-90.1 entitled Specific Qualifications.
May I have a motion to open a public hearing, please?
Motion.
Second on that.
Second.
Oh, everyone's good? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anyone, nay? Anyone looking to address the council on this ordinance, please step forward now. Seeing and hearing none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. A second on that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. May I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
May I have a second on that?
Second.
May we have a roll call, please?
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes, the ordinance has been adopted. Ordinance, item 5 is ordinances for introduction. Please.
O3-2023-011, ordinance amending Chapter 122 of the Code of the Township of Monroe entitled Vehicles and Traffic, specifically Section 122-30 entitled No Parking.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes. Item 6, the resolutions for consideration under the consent agenda. How did you read the numbers, and with the exception, please?
Yes. R3-2023-092 through R3-2023-115, with the exception of R3-2023-108.
Thank you. List of resolutions is grown. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. May I have a second on that?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zura.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes. Item 7 is the resolutions removed for the consent agenda.
R3-2023-108.
Motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman DePiero,
Abstain?
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel,
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora,
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes. We move to our report section of our agenda. Mr. Weinberg.
Yes, thank you very much, Council President. Just a couple items I want to comment on. As I mentioned earlier, the $1.5 million with the largest investment in paving and modernizing our roads, obviously very important, and we've worked really hard on that, so we'll be moving forward on that. The other thing is also want to thank the mayor and council for doing that now. As you know, we switched that up several years back, and by doing this now, we focus on paving our roads during July and August when the kids aren't in school and when it's likely the best time to pave. So we try and do that whenever we can. I want to congratulate Patty and her team on another successful rabies clinic. Certainly not easy, so well run as always. I want to remind residents and folks that are watching that we're always recruiting for camp counselors for the summer from late June to early August. So if anyone knows someone, please reach out to the rec department. We usually get a great group of folks, but we're always on the lookout. So please encourage folks to apply to be camp counselors. We're working on the budget, as was mentioned earlier, for introduction in April, focusing on affordability. This year will be important. I think one of the best things we have going into the budget that I think was mentioned at previous meetings is, since we're not in the state health benefits plan, we're not facing a 23% increase, as I mentioned at previous meetings, because of our contract negotiations and changes to our health care. We're actually going up 0% on health care, which will really help us as we introduce the budget, hopefully at the April meeting. Congratulate Joe Slomian, who's down in Atlantic City from DPW, who's getting a statewide Clean Community Award, so I just wanted to recognize that. One of the other items that we're working on is the energy tax receipts, which is something that the state sort of took away from municipalities probably 20 years ago. Last year, we got our first down payment on that. It wasn't in the governor's budget, but working with the mayor to make sure that the legislature adds it back in and a little bit more to help focus on affordability. And then finally, just want to thank our Parks Department. March and April is probably their busiest time as they get all the fields ready for all of our kids across the entire town. And it is a frenetic effort to get everything ready for opening day and for people to be able to get outside and enjoy themselves. So that's my report, Council President.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi.
Mr. Rasbowitz, you're next.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple of updates on a few of the projects we have going on. The Veterans Park ADA restrooms and parks maintenance facility, that's been under construction. Footings and foundations are in. They poured concrete flooring, and you'll see they'll be starting to come out of the ground with walls, and looking forward to that to be completed by the end of May. The Old Bridge Englishtown Road and Mounts Mills Road intersection, that traffic signal, that's a Middlesex County project. Middlesex County's hopeful to be out to bid within the next 2 months. They're waiting on 1 or 2 more state permits to wrap that up and then be out to bid. That's my report.
Council reports. I think I will begin with Councilman DePiero.
Okay, thank you. First, I just want to say February 18th was the fire election. All the budgets passed, all 3 districts passed, and I want to say congratulations to the commissioners and also to the public for coming out and supporting your fire companies. I also wanted to remind everybody, March 14th is the Board of Board of Education election. I just want to wish our clerk good luck, our office. I know you guys always do a great job, and all the poll workers, and we need to get as many people out as possible, because it's very important that people come out and support every election and do what's right for the community. And I know we did get some additional aid. We talked about that, and we received an email. But along with the additional aid also comes additional mandates. So the cost definitely goes up when the state gives you $1. They always make sure that you spend the money that they give you. So the amount of money that is in that $135 million plus budget it's a real shortfall of what we all know that we should be receiving when you look at other towns or you look at other communities, such as Newark, where they get 1-point-something billion every year. And then when you do a calculation and you see how much it is per child, it's over $27,000 per student. And I know that it's important that we fight for that. The Board of Education is fighting every day just to keep the roofs over the buildings and keep the fields going and keep the cost of transportation, as we just went through some transfers on additional fuel costs. We all go through it at our homes with the food and the fuels and the additional cost. So it's important that we keep focused on our community and we support that March 14th election and get out there as many people that we can to vote. So I just wanted to put that back out there. The Turtle Gate, do we own that property yet on Old Church Road?
Are you talking about a property on Old Church Road?
Yes. Do we
Okay.
own that?
We do not.
When will we receive ownership of that property?
I mean, I'll defer it back to Mark. I think when the process is complete, it will come to us. So, Mark, I don't know if you want to, Council President, if Mark could answer
Yes,
that question.
please. No, I'm turning my. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
that's true. When the developer's off the bonds, that'll be transferred to the township.
We don't have a date for that yet.
I do not.
So
Thank
the
you.
developer's off maintenance bond, performance bond? Which bond?
Typically, that would happen at the performance bond.
Performance bond.
So how do we have a list of what needs to be completed for this developer? I mean, it's been years since this developer has been working on this bond and development. So, I mean, do we have any target date or do we have any?
Council President, I'll look
Please.
into
Would you
the status
please?
of the project. I don't know if there's any homes left to be completed or what the status is out there.
Please,
But
thank
we'll
you
look
very
into it.
much.
Okay, thank you. Last month, I mentioned something about the Monroe Township Post Office, the lights in the parking lot, the dead trees. It's just an eyesore. And when you go by at night, you go inside the parking lot, you can't see. It's safety hazard. I mentioned it last meeting. I'll mention it again. We need to do something. I'm on the Shade Tree Commission as the liaison. I mean, I don't know if we do it on other properties where we clean up properties. This might be something that we might have to look into if they're not going to maintain their own property. And if we can't get them to maintain it, maybe we should take the action and maintain it for them, because it's bad, and the lights are definitely a safety issue. So be careful going over there at night, because it's definitely a problem, and I'm hoping that we can get some help to get that resolved. I sent an email over the weekend, Mounts Mill, Spotswood Englishtown Road, desperate need for paving, light improvements. The crosswalks are not working. It's been years since that light has been up. You have bags over the lights. You have stockpiles on the Swales property, which is across the street, of stumps and debris, and that's considered solid waste. They don't have the permits and the proper approvals to be growing their development across the street and stockpiling properties on that property. Even though they own it, they might have a stockpile permit to put suitable soils and acceptable soils, but not asphalt, not stumps. I sent pictures, and it's just something that needs to be cleaned up, and I would hope that we can get that developer to be a little bit better neighbor and appreciate. Last time we did the paving on Mounts Mill, Mayor Tamboro took the initiative and he went forward, and I think we're going to have to do it again, because it's so bad. I get calls and complaints all the time. Every time I go down that road, it's just horrible. And if we can't get the developer to do it, I would ask that we make that part of our 2023 paving program, and we do the right thing for the community, because that's a bad area, and I'm told it only says it in the planning resolution that says, well, the developer can do it at the end of the project. The way the developer's going, he might be there another 5 years, and the road's not going to last 5 years. So It's just something that the more you wait, the more it's going to cost us. So if you look at a mill and pave, it's a lot easier to mill and pave than it is to do a reconstruct and pave. I mean, you got curbs out there sinking, you got catch basins that don't have winterization. I mean, you look at that site, and it's probably one of it's not a clean site, or it's not appeasing to the eyes, or when you drive down it, it's definitely, it's not good, and I'm not proud of it, and I think that's something that we need to clean up. Bordentown Turnpike, we talked about it, Smith's property. They made a couple complaints. Mark went out there, his firm went out there. We talked about possibly doing some capital improvements for drainage. I don't know if that's in the works for 2023, but it's something that I would ask that we should look at for drainage and possibly paving the roads. Potholes through the Monroe. Seems like this weekend I spent a little time driving around and sent some pictures, and I want to thank DPW and the county. They did Applegarth Road today. I went out and I checked, and they did some pothole paving. And I understand you can't do a hot mix patch, but they did a cold patch, and they did sufficient for the time of the year that it is. But the potholes just seem like they popped up overnight, and it's something that we need to stay on top of. And I just want to thank Mark's office, the DPW, and also the county for taking care of that. And that's really my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Schneider, please.
Good evening. On April 18th at the Public Library, 2 o'clock, there will be a presentation for the Holocaust. This is something in history that everybody should remember, not dwell on, but I think it's very important that everybody remembers the Holocaust. And there is a survivor that will be present at this film. On April 30th, the Human Relations Commission, with the Muslim, are getting together to raise funds where they're inclusive and belonging. I think this is important because the fundraising will go for Turkey and Syria. Also, the Human Relations Commission has teamed up, like I said, and all the money that will go will help Turkey and Syria. So that's my report.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Siegel.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So a couple updates. First, I just want to mention there's a proclamation today, Save the Soil Day, which on March 21st, which I've never heard about until I read this, and it is quite interesting. And maybe I'm just thinking about it because I went to the community garden meeting. But one of the things the proclamation stated was that 52% of the world's agricultural soils are already degraded, and by 2050, 90% could be degraded, which is quite alarming when you think about it. So I just wanted to, I'm thankful that we're bringing awareness to this. It's something that we should be somewhat concerned about, but it was a very interesting proclamation, so I encourage everyone to read it. I was happy to see on our agenda tonight that we are improving the parking lots by DPW construction softball fields. As Mr. Weinberg mentioned, it's such a heavily trafficked area, so it's nice to see those improvements being made because it does impact the whole community. And then I just wanted to make a comment. I thought the News 12 local business tour with the mayor was really wonderful, and I know talking to a lot of people, and I did pop on the TV and I saw you live, but talking to a lot of people, they were really happy to see our local businesses showcased. And I did attend last week, the Community Garden Public Information Meeting, where they shared their plans for this year and upcoming events, including some of their plant sales. And it's really wonderful to have this community garden. If you haven't been there, it's a nice place to go visit. They even last year added a beehive where they're making their own local honey. So it's quite a beautiful area to go visit. And last week I went over to Applegarth School and I got to read to the students for Read Across America Week, which I realized you're never too old to have a book read to. And one of the books I read each year, and I started out in Barclay Brook years ago and gone to Oak Tree, but one of my favorite books to read is Caps for Sale, and it's so cute to see the older kids too giggle when those monkeys take those caps. So That was a fun event. And a few upcoming events I want to share from some of the commissions that I'm a liaison to. The Cultural Arts Commission is presenting a live performance of the Princeton Symphony Orchestra on March 28th at the library at 1 p.m. The Environmental Commission with the MTHS Environmental Action Club will be doing a presentation on sustainability, conservation, and wildlife on March 18th at 11 o'clock at the library. So please do check the library for some specific information. And then I just wanted to give a quick update on the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, which I also liaison to that. I first want to shout out to our advisor. She does an amazing job leading and mentoring the kids. She herself was on the council when she was in high school. So it's really nice to see her embracing this and adding a little more to it than what she experienced. One of the things the kids had done this past month, they teamed up with Nancy Fichtelberg, who does a Soup for Rossmore, and they helped coordinate an effort to write Valentine's Day cards to go along with the soup. So it was a really nice effort that they did, and it was so well received by her. And this past month, too, they continued learning about municipal government. They learned a little bit about planning and zoning, and they had the opportunity to work with our Environmental Commission to do a little more deep delving into composting, which is one of the areas of interesting. So we look forward to working with our students and seeing all their impact they're making already. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Zuur.
Thank you, Madam President. Over the last month, there were a few dates of anniversaries of note. One was, I saw, I believe on one of the Facebook pages, February 23rd was our 185th birthday of the Township of Monroe. So it means we go all the way back to 1838, which is a long time. So congratulations to us, and we're still here. It's a good thing.
And we look surprisingly wonderful.
For her age.
For our age.
And by the way, in doing some research on another thing, I happen to also see that the Monroe oak, our tree, I read somewhere that tree is 230 or 330 years old.
300.
330, right?
It's like way over 300. It's estimated.
Yeah, estimation. That's pretty impressive, too. Couple of sort of sadder things. February 24th marked the one-year anniversary of the Ukraine invasion, which I find continue to be appalled by that. Now apparently Putin is trying to take over this town called Bakhmut, and they're doing the same type of thing they did with Mariupol, where they're basically shelling every building in sight that they can come up with. It could be residential, it could be energy supply buildings where they might furnish water, and again, the innocent people are just sitting there and suffering over and over again. I understand they're down to about 4,000 people who are still trying to stay and live a life there, but my thoughts are with them. I will say this, I was very proud of our president to go to Ukraine, into the war zone, without there being a military support staff with him, and put himself at risk for the benefit of the Ukrainian people. And I hope that we will continue to support the Ukrainians in their efforts to fight this off. February 25th was actually called a Day of Hate Day for anti-Semitism. And it just makes you wonder what our world is coming to. Someone that actually sat down somewhere and said, I have a great idea, let's have a day of hate for anti-Semitism. Who does that? And then who promotes it? And how does this ever become a thing? But apparently it was a thing. Thankfully, all of our the people became aware of it, the police were aware of it, the government was aware of it, and because of that, they took the necessary measures. I did not read of anything that particularly happened that was particularly hurtful. So we were ready for it, and thankfully they addressed it. I do have one other thing. right before all this stuff with the Ukraine, and we had 3 mass shootings in a row in a period of about a week. And not to even stop there, because we've had more mass shootings this year than we've had days in the year. In other words, the mass shooting is when at least 4 people get shot, not counting the gunman himself. And we're now a country of guns. It becomes acceptable almost. You hear it on the news. People, shrug it off. Maybe if there's children and there's more than 10 or 20, it becomes more of a story, and everybody vows to take the measures to try and improve on it. And then, and what usually happens, 10 days goes by, it's no longer in the news cycle. Nothing ever really seems to come from it. I was simply appalled to find out that our United States House of Representatives, during the same month when there were all these mass shootings, decided to put forth a bill. They introduced a bill to make the AR-15 our national gun. I just want my opposition to that to be noted, and any person from the NRA that might be listening to this, yes, I do oppose that. I oppose having the AR-15 as the national gun of the United States of America, and I think it's disgusting that they would even put forth such a bill. Now, on a happier note, my co-counsel I saw at the Applegarth School, I want to thank Ms. Kirby for allowing us to participate in the Read Across America. I thought it was a wonderful program. It was my first chance to have an opportunity to do that. I was at Miss Polino's 5th grade class. Children were wonderful. They were receptive. They were very attentive. Unlike Rupa, who had her favorite book, my favorite book was Green Eggs and Ham, and managed to get through it without messing it up too bad, and the children seemed to really enjoy it. I enjoyed the children, but I guess the thing is, I could not be more happy than to know that at our schools here in Monroe, we had such a nice, respectful group of people. I walked in, they stood up to say thank you for coming. They said thank you when I was leaving, and I felt like I needed to thank them. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I hope we always continue that, and I told them, and I mean it, anytime that they have anything like that, I'd be more than happy to come back and participate. So that was a wonderful thing. And then just the last thing, Councilman DePiero and myself were both here for the Citizens Review Board with the students, I'm sorry, the,
Stayed home.
thank you, the state home. It's getting older here. With the state home, nothing really to report there. I mean, to me, it was just kind of status quo. Eventually, that's going to be getting closed, but I don't think we're at any point where it's in like the immediate future. They are looking at other sites. Apparently, they have 2 other sites that seem to be approved. There's a 3rd site that they need. They don't know. They're having some issues with that. I asked them if perhaps once they have the 2 sites, if they could get that built, can we then, close our school, send the kids over there, and it's really not up to the people who were actually here. They just report. They do a good job. They do have tough circumstances. As much as I'd rather there not be anything, and we'd have to chance to develop that site for other reasons and other uses. We do have to support those people because they do a good job. They have delinquencies there. They have a lot of tough kids to deal with, and by and large, they've been doing a pretty good job and keeping things under control. So that's my report for the evening, and I thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to take a moment before your report, please. I wanted to comment that I was also reading Green Eggs and Ham, Sam I Am, and it was a kindergarten group, and the teacher's aide in the room is someone with whom I tap dance, and we hadn't seen each other in a while, and it was just a lovely experience, as it always is. As I say, my son is a school superintendent, so when I pop into a school and I see these kinds of things, I go, he does this for a living. And it's very nice. The other comment I want to make is not so happy. I was in synagogue that morning of the Day of Hate, and I'm sitting in there, and I look up and I look out a window, and there is a sheriff's car driving through the parking lot. And they were there as per the plan. It existed in Monroe as well. I received a phone call from a rabbi in town to say thank you, for the support they receive. And it is very frightening. It was frightening to me personally. So for all those for whom this is very abstract, it is not so abstract. And I just felt the need that I needed to say that. I just did. Mr. Mayor, I did see you on television. I was up early and I watched you on the day that you were at those sites. And it is wonderful publicity for our town and for the people who live and work here. So your report, sir, please.
Thank you, Madam Council President. I certainly appreciate the time and the effort to provide some commentary, some reporting on behalf of the Mayor's office here. As most of you do recall, Monroe suffered mightily during Tropical Storm Henri. We were able to help procure some money from the state to help Rossmore specifically. But it was at some point last year I did pen a letter to our federal representatives asking for more funding in regards to a larger regional flood mitigation. Obviously, the Rossmore money is helping specifically Rossmore, but as we all know, that running water knows no boundaries, municipal boundaries. So we were lucky very much so that the federal government provided some money to the county, which they were going to look at a regional flood study. And again, it's the county is going to implement this study. But we were the benefit to have the press conference here last month. We had Senator Menendez, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman come and speak about the study. So it was something that I know a lot of the council members were here as well, administration and staff, and those who experienced the Rossmore flooding. So that's, again, just very exciting. Wanted to make mention. I, for one, am very, very excited about the paving at the DPW recycling yard. And I am proud to say that it's getting done, and I am very happy to see that it was passed tonight. Much needed. So obviously for cosmetic purposes, it's going to look much nicer. But the amount of citizens that use our DPW cycling yard is astounding. And now, we always talk about, it's a crown jewel of Monroe, the library, the community center, the senior center. We're always afraid to show a picture of perhaps the recycling yard. I can't wait for that paving job so I can now start showing the recycling yard because it's so much needed, not only for our citizens, but for the DPW, the people that work there as well. So I'm very excited in regards to that. And we're able to use the tonnage grant as well to help pay for that. So again, I think that's something that we're all excited and very proud to be part of. Let's talk a little bit about crime prevention. So tonight, obviously in the bond ordinance, we approved some money to help us modernize the technology used by our police force. Again, looking at the technology that they were using, was technology that we should be ashamed of. That, it's time, right? You have your own toys and gadgets at home, and you're always modernizing it. It was time for our police to help prevent crime, help keep them safe, and what we all want, to help keep the citizens of Monroe safe. Just to highlight a few of the items, which was mentioned before, was an automatic license plate reader in every patrol car and new modern dash cams. These readers and cameras will be able to search real time in databases to help protect Monroe. And we all talk about real time. right? And that's what technology helps bring. We also talked about, and Alan did a great job of providing the details regarding our parks improvements. So one of the byproducts of our master plan was the need for more and enhancing of our recreational facilities. Bar none, that was one of the top requests of the citizens who participated in the master plan. We heard from the residents, this is what they're asking for, and Monroe's coming through to help. But again, the burden shouldn't just be on Monroe. It should be on the county as well, in which we're looking for more grants to help potentially match some of the prices that we're going to be looking at in regards to enhancing our recreational facilities. Speaking of penning a letter, I did recently pen a letter to our governor in Trenton. As mayor, you get to pen letters every so often. Sometimes people listen, sometimes they don't. So I will try to take a little bit of credit on this one, where the governor's budget provided additional funding for schools. And again, yes, whenever we're going to talk about funding from schools, the preface always has to be, it's not enough. But happy with what we were able to receive from Trenton. Heck, we send enough down to Trenton. It's time that they start sending some back. So obviously highlighting funding for our schools, the expansion of the senior freeze eligibility to $150,000. There's certainly going to be some more details of that coming. And then also requesting another year of Anchor, where residents can receive up to $1,500 in property tax relief. I've been seeing word that the checks should be being sent out from the Anchor program by mid-spring. And again, just the theme is it's crucial property tax relief that we hope will continue. Locally, certainly want to welcome Nancy Harrigan as our new senior director. Nancy's been there for a number of years now, and I'm sure she's going to do a terrific job. We're all very excited. And conversely, we say goodbye to Karen Thayer, who revolutionized the senior center. She took the programs, she took the direction of how the senior center should be run. She was an amazing director, put her heart and soul into that job, and I do want to thank Karen. I did, on her last day, last week, she came on in, made her cry a little bit, so I know I did my job. So, yeah, tears of joy, of course, not sadness. As was mentioned, News 12 was here in Monroe Township. That was interesting. That was really interesting. Got up at 4:30 in the morning to start off at the Mind the Gap coffee shop at 5 a.m. And then we had to, at every 30 minutes, go to a separate location to do a, on-the-spot report. One of the common theme as we went to each of the locations was that they just love Monroe, and they're all just happy and proud to be part of the community. So it was great. It was great. Now, would I want to do that every week? No, maybe every year, but just an opportunity to highlight what Monroe was about was very special for me. And the representative's reporter from News 12 was actually taken aback too, because besides just what they do is they do this every Friday, and they normally just go to diners and restaurants, but we decided to give them a real flavor of Monroe So besides the coffee shop, we went to Amici Bakery. We went to the Special Strides Horse Farm. We went up to Forsgate Country Club. We stopped off at Texas Road Pharmacy. Went to Mrs. Kumar's Indian Restaurant. We went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and then we ended up at the barbecue roadside stand, the bearded one on 33. So they were taken aback that we said, you know, if you're asking to see Monroe, you're going to see Monroe, and they were very appreciative. That day was a very busy day. I had the honor and privilege to go to the Clearbrook Veterans Medals Ceremony, which was part of the State Department of Veterans Affairs, gave out, about 40 medals to veterans from Clearbrook community. And again, it was certainly an honor and privilege to attend that. Again, as was mentioned before about Read Across America, and I do want to thank the Oak Tree School PTA. I got to read to the 3rd grade class, Tomorrow Most Likely. So I know it was a Dr. Seuss type of event, but my wife, who is a librarian in South Brunswick school system, said, read this one. It is Dr. Seuss-esque. So obviously, not going to read it to the report during my report here. It's kind of a nice bedtime story, so if you want, maybe afterwards we can huddle up, I'll read it to you, and we can snuggle in for the evening. But again, as you can tell from our reports, how special it is to participate in that, and just a gracious thank you to everyone having that. Speaking of schools, again, which was mentioned, March 14th, my friends, I cannot stress enough to all of you, the citizens of Monroe Township, how important it is to go and vote. Please, it's all of our civic duty here to ensure that the citizens of Monroe do the research and then go and vote on March 14th for that school referendum. Please, do the research, make your decision, and then please go and vote. March 14th, the Monroe Township School referendum. Just to finish things up, some items on the calendar to look forward to in the upcoming weeks. We're having a community cleanup March 25th in the morning. More details in regards to this specific time. It'll be on Perineville Road near the Stop and Shop. It's the same place we did it last year, much needed. And then later that day is the Maker Fest, which finally nice returns in person again on that March 25th at 12 o'clock. At again, one of the crown jewels of Monroe Township, the Public Library. And with that, Madam Council President, I do thank you for allowing me to wax poetic about some items. And again, just thank you.
It is always a pleasure to let you wax poetic, so therefore we do.
Before we end.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh.
Councilwoman Schneider, yes.
Being Irish, I would be remiss if I didn't wish everybody a St. Patty's Day.
Absolutely.
I
Thank you.
hope you enjoy your corned beef, cabbage, whatever.
And Irish soda bread.
Right, and Irish soda bread.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of my colleagues on the council and the mayor, as always. I would like to have a motion to open the public comment section at this time. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, the public comment section is now open. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and address your comments. Dr. Peruk.
Prakash Purap, 33 Dana Drive. It is very emotional that, as Mayor said, March 14th, please go and vote for the referendum. It's very emotional because we didn't have any referendum passed for last 7 to 8 years. The schools are overcrowded. The township has grown, and we need, schools are overcrowded. So this will resolve overcrowding of middle school, high school, Applegarth School, Oak Tree School. And important to note that at present, the special education students from Applegarth and Oak Tree are bused to different schools. The special education students are not with their brothers and sisters going to the same school, nor the friends. It is very important that special education students also be with their community friends. So when at present they are bused to Mill Lake, so this will resolve that too. The special education students will not be bused. And that will also create a space in Mill Lake School. So the space is created across the schools. So that will help to have special enhanced education in academic, arts, STEM, you call it, okay? So this will help to have special education, enhanced education in elementary schools, middle school, and high school, across the school, which is very essential. Our Applegarth School was built in 1936 and not been renovated. Brackley Brook was renovated in 1999, and our engineer, Mr. Teague, has been here for 31 years. He knows how to renovate the schools, modify the schools with the safety concerns. Okay, asbestos safety concerns have been raised, but there are procedures, state-level procedures, guidance that will be followed, and the safety of the staff and students will be there. This construction, material, and everything is approved by the Department of Education and New Jersey engineers, so it will be a quality work. So request is go and vote yes. Our children deserve it. Children come first, politics comes last, as far as children are concerned. With respect to, I appreciate Mayor for writing to the governor, and we received 1.6 million. Something is better than nothing. We deserve more, but something is better than nothing. Also, nice to hear that for the seniors, the property tax freeze or whatever it is called, the bar will be raised from 95,000 to 150,000. We should go and lobby so that it is there, both the funding for the school and everything remains. One question is, the tax increase will not have impact for the seniors who property tax are frozen with respect to school expansion and all. My question is, I don't want correct figure, in 2022, for the 2021 property tax freeze, how many seniors benefited from that, and how much money we received from the state? So bottom line is, how many seniors are benefited from property tax freeze in our township? Okay, 2021, 2020, whatever the ball, I don't want exact number, how much, what's that number ballpark?
I don't know that we have that number at our fingertips. Alan may know.
Yeah, so the property tax freeze, just looking at notes that I always keep on me, $1.3 million for property tax freeze. That goes not to the township, but directly to the homeowners who pay their taxes in full. The homestead rebate was about $3 million. This is 2021. The 2022 numbers should be out soon. And I think what's exciting about the homestead rebate is that's going to become the anchor program, and that $3 million is going to grow multifold. So we should have that number probably in a month as well, to go from whether it's $3 million to double that amount or triple that amount through the anchor program as well. So those are the numbers. I do not have the number of individuals. I'd have to look that up. I don't keep that on me.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Thank
most
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else looking to speak with us, please? Yes. Your name and address for our records, please, ma'am.
Name, Deborah Schneider, 23 Harwood Road, Monroe.
Yes.
I was hoping you could tell me on the township budget, what line item I can look at to see the money that has been received back from Comcast, Verizon, the utilities that pay back the township. And in all my readings of the Monroe News, I have never seen this made public. And if not, I'd like to know why, and if yes, when.
Mr. Weinberg.
And I'll defer to George if he has anything to add.
George,
So
hi.
there's a state franchise fee for Comcast and for Verizon as well. And it is located in the budget. I don't have it in front of me. It is a percentage of every person's bill. George, do you happen to know offhand, if you have the microphone over there, exactly how much comes from Verizon and how much comes from Comcast? I do know that it's been quite steady the last couple of years, not going up.
Yeah, I could double check the numbers, but I believe it's like 2%, 3.5% on the sales. It's a couple $100,000. I don't have the exact number. I'm not going to look it up, but we've been getting that every year. And it is a revenue item in the budget. I guess
Is it listed?
towards the revenue section.
It is listed in the budget. I can show you after the
Item of
meeting. I
revenue.
just don't
Okay.
have it in front of me.
Also, I think it would help if the public was aware of this, because there is a lot of animosity between Comcast and the public. And this may help to lighten the load a little bit.
It's an interesting point.
And if I could add, and I
Yes.
apologize, Council
It's all right,
President.
please.
The amount of money that they pay us is set by, for all 565 towns by state statute, the amount of money we receive. When George mentioned the 2% from Comcast and the 3.5% from Verizon. It's not a Monroe thing, it's a statewide thing as part of the Franchise Act.
So is this going to be made public?
So it's all in the budget, and I can show you after the meeting. George will print out a copy, and I'll circle it for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. Anyone else? Yes, please. Name and address for our record, please.
Yes, good evening. Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. I just wanted to thank the council members, the mayor, that were able to come over to Oak Tree and Applegarth and read. It was a PTA event. I was a volunteer for the PTA, as my son is at Oak Tree. So I was asked to run the event, and I just want to thank you for accepting the invitation. It was a wonderful day for the students. On behalf of the Board of Education, as the president, I do want to take a moment to say a few words as far as the upcoming referendum. I do want to thank the mayor's office for their help in helping the school district get the information out to the residents about the referendum. With the information that you shared, we were able to have meetings so far at many of our communities in town. We met with residents at Encore, at Rossmore, today at Monroe Village. We also had a presentation here in this room last week with the League of Women Voters that was open to the public. Tomorrow evening, the district will be going to Regency at 7 p.m. and on Wednesday to Stonebridge at 1 p.m. Additionally, open to the public and any resident that wants to come, we are having a referendum presentation on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. at Applegarth School. So we encourage all residents to come into Applegarth School and see it. For those that were there last week, you got to see the building. It really is a beautiful building. It is old. It does need to be fixed. There's a lot that is not been maintained over the years that needs to be fixed. Do I think that it needs to be, the recommendation was not to knock down and build a new school. It was to fix what we have due to the two failed referendums that we had back in 2018 and 2019 for a new school. That failed, so the district came back with a plan more fiscally responsible for the taxpayers to fix what we had. Not building new schools, not building new fields, but fixing what we have and adding on to the buildings that we own currently. As far as the fair funding and the additional monies from the state, yes, we do appreciate all the aid that we can get, but Monroe is severely underfunded. And Mr. Mayor, if you do pen another letter to the governor about Monroe and the aid, I would ask that maybe the town asks for the state to reconsider impact fees from builders, because we've seen it. We see builders come in, they fund people's campaigns, but they don't fund our schools. And it's really unfortunate because the overcrowding from the building that goes on, the school district has to address, and now we're having a problem getting our residents who feel that they're overtaxed to even want to pay a small extra amount of tax to fix our schools. So that would definitely help, as well as last year, the state was supposed to put together a funding formula task force. It did not move out of committee, unfortunately, and the task force now is not being formed. That was to look at the formula and to look at where there may be flaws in the formula, which I know Monroe has sent legislation and worked with Senator Greenstein on bringing that forth to the state, and unfortunately, it's fell on deaf ears. And until that formula does get fixed, because there are flaws with it that we see, we get no equalization aid. Towns around us, East Brunswick, South Brunswick, they get in the millions. If we got half of the funding that some of the towns around us got, we wouldn't have to go out to a referendum. But what we have been getting simply does not cover the maintenance items that we need to. So I would hope that this council and mayor's office would help with the state in looking at getting more funding for us, because that truly is something that we need to do. So thank you, and again, yes, go out and vote on March 14th. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else looking to address us? Yes, please.
Lucille Panos, 1208 Celandera Plaza, Monroe. I'd like to thank Miss Lang from the Recreation Department. I had written a letter about a month in December about maybe opening up an evening pickleball.
That you did.
And she did it. Sometimes, people would go back and forth and say different things. I've gotten emails from her at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. She just is on target with getting her thing done, and she accomplished that, so I'd like to acknowledge that. I really don't know what Save the Soil proclamation was. Is it something that could be read online? Well, I didn't hear the proclamation.
We didn't read it this evening.
Right, it wasn't read, and I'd be curious what that's about. The Mounts Mill Road, I do travel that quite often because my son still lives in Old Bridge, and I teach CCD there. Sometimes, isn't there something that there should be a police officer directing traffic? There's been times that the trucks are just moving in and out, and we're just standing, waiting. I thought that the developer could act. Some developers, I know when JCP&L does a job or something, they pay for officers to be directing traffic. Maybe you should give some consideration to a time frame when the school buses are there in the morning or something. How is that traffic? When do they begin work? And what's going on with the traffic? And that continues down to Englishtown Road. That I see there's a light going on. Green eggs and ham, by the way, if you add blue food coloring to the eggs, you get green eggs. I've done that for years with my children. The Mount Mills police officer, can I get an address of the Monroe Capital Improvements? I looked it up real quick. It seems like it's based out of Virginia, wherever we acquired that property from. So is there an address for this Monroe Capital Improvements
Do we have an
LLC?
address for the people for whom we got
I would have to look into that. I mean, it's an LLC. I don't know where
an
they
LLC,
they
okay.
filed.
Right,
We
it
don't
seems
control
I
them.
Googled it right there, but I couldn't get it. And again, do you know what kind of Durangos you're getting? Are you going to get the 3.6, the V6, the V8, the 6.2 liter? Well, how bad are the vehicles that they're being replaced with these vehicles? You should be leading the way with initiatives for green energy or whatever, and here you are buying gas-guzzling vehicles. Unless there's a dire need and there's an emergency, I really ask this council to reconsider purchasing those and go out. It's the whatever co-op you're buying it from. Maybe there's something else. I can't believe the state is pushing all this green vehicle stuff, all green everything, including the wind things about the whales I'm not thrilled about. But that needs to be looked at. Please don't go out and buy these, spend over $100,000 on something. This is township vehicles. It's not like they're going to go 600 miles and need a charge. They're just driving around our town, and it would be an example to set for the future. If you're asking people to do it, you should do it first. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the council? This is a banner night for you. You're not missing one time. Mr. Gunkelman.
George Gunkelman, 5
Yes.
Kelly Court, Monroe. I had something, but it turns out I'm piggybacking on one of the things the mayor said about the regional or the county-wide study for flooding and the relief that we got. I'm wondering if I walk what we used to call the industrial area because it's close to my house. That is the watershed that contributed to the flood that went to Rossmore. And looking at the ponds there, I'm sort of suspicious that they're not really at capacity. There's a number of retention ponds as well as detention ponds over there. And particularly the retention ponds fill up with silt. Fill up is the wrong word, but they lose capacity from silting over the years. I'm wondering if the town couldn't ask the responsible parties, the owners of the different
Clean them up.
buildings, or whoever is responsible, of course it would vary from lease to lease, but the responsible parties to give us an idea of what their capacity is. And then further, I would like that maybe our professional staff could recommend to the county to look at the two, well, it's really one connected pond over where our pumps are off of Applegarth. That is the immediate, that's where everything in the industrial area goes to from the watershed of there. And maybe we could get ahead of some of the problem there if we understand that if we've lost capacity, or begin to look at what we could do to expand the capacity of that detention and retention capability from the industrial area. I'd like to piggyback a little bit on what was said about the post office. I think it's a crime how bad it is. Maybe we could ask our federal elected officials to make an inquiry of the post office as to when they're going to have in their budget some resources for particularly improving the lighting there. But the landscaping is abysmal, and maybe our Shade Tree Commission with resources could assist there in making some improvements. But about 90% of the trees that are on that property are dead and falling down. It really is atrocious. And then I have to beg for a little help. Presume George left, so it falls on Alan.
Just printing something out. He's coming
It
back.
doesn't matter. We passed a number of resolutions that have spending in them. Are they out of the budget that we haven't presented yet, or are they out of last year's budget? We're allocating monies from a budget that doesn't exist yet, or where are we with that? I should know this from the past, but my memory went somewhere else over the years.
Thank you, Council
Please,
President,
Alan.
and I'll try and answer it in
Succinctly.
George's absence. So this is to authorize bonds, and those authorizations could take months before we spend the money. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's quite a bit after that. And once that money is spent, then immediately what's issued is a bond anticipation note, which is a short 1-year note that covers the interest payment and goes into our current fund operating budget for the next year. It gets rolled into that. And then the bands can stay either as bond anticipation notes for any amount of time from 1 to 10 years, depending on what the interest rates are out there. Bands are usually lower than permanent financing, and then ultimately they all get rolled into permanent financing as well. So to answer your question is, as we spend the money, they do go into bond anticipation notes, and they are rolled right into the budget. And the debt service is part of our budget. And as you know, the mayor and council have mentioned earlier, you know, our debts, the amount of money we had bonding has gone down. So it's put us in a good position, particularly last year when we did the budget. But it is all rolled into our budget and accounted for through bond anticipation notes.
So expenses approved tonight are from the budget that is going to be approved in May.
So just, and I have the expert here, if I could, Council President.
Please, you take
since you
another
just
minute
walked
to
back
finish
in.
that answer, and then
Should
you'll-
we?
Talking about me.
No.
Oh yeah, Lou's not. Should money be spent from these bonds, it would roll into a bond anticipation note and go into the next year's budget, even though there would be interest paid on it during that year. Can you explain that process a little bit better, George?
That's correct. The bond anticipation note gives us the cash for the project. Eventually, the notes, if not paid through the budget, will become part of a future bond issue.
Permanent.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
I'm sorry.
My 5 minutes is
You
up
gotcha.
also,
Yeah,
so-
we were perfect timing tonight, all the way around. Is there anyone else that wishes to address us this evening? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
So moved.
Paying attention, are you?
Second.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to, no, that's for the record, that no one opposed. No one opposed. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Want a roll call on this?
No.
Any opposed? No, good.
I don't want a roll call.
Goody. We are adjourned. I thank you all for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure, and we hope to see you next month.